At this track close to Stockholm, a new method of transport is being tested. These futuristic driverless pods are known as PRT, or Personal Rapid Transit Vehicles. Travelling magnetically on rails and powered by electricity, they release no emissions at the point of use. And unlike most forms of public transport, are always available when you need them.
No waiting time, direct travel, it's available around the clock. It's also an advantage for those not traveling with increased safety, that you are usually elevated, you don't have the risk of being run over by vehicles.
The idea is that you simply turn up at your nearest podcast station, swipe your fare card, program your destination, and a pod turns up soon after to collect you. You can choose to travel alone or with others sharing your destination, and the pod takes you from A to B without stopping at up to 25 miles per hour, much like a taxi but without the driver or the risk of getting stuck in traffic.
Today people think very much that it is either public transportation or private. This technology is a crossover between public and private transport. You decide yourself for any trip. Do I have a flu? Do I want to sit alone today? I use it privately. Otherwise you can use it publicly.
In which case the fare is much lower, similar to a bus fare, which in expensive Sweden costs about $3.50. A British company, Advanced Transport Systems, opened their Ultra Podcar track at Heathrow Airport's new Terminal 5 in June. But the Swedish are taking the technology one step further. They plan to spend over 50 million euros on an inner city track.
To get this into an industrial scale, we need to expand the idea and physically the structure of all these beams that is needed, the guideways, for much longer distances.
A recent study by engineering consultancy WSP showed that podcars could yield a better profit margin than other forms of public transport, as long as the cost per kilometre was kept below $7.3 million. Currently, the estimate for the pilot track is closer to 10 million, but this profit calculation doesn't take into account that podcars could be used for far more than just passenger transport.
I certainly think this system can yield a profit because it will be used 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, both for personal travel and freight goods transport. So no subsidy should be necessary, as it is always with traditional public transport.
In the longer term, podcars could attract private investors, including real estate developers, looking to increase the value of their properties through faster connections to central business areas. Global expansion is also a real possibility. It's not only Sweden that's planning to implement a system like this. Several other cities around the world are also considering their own systems, including the carbon-neutral city of Mazda in Abu Dhabi, Shanghai in China, and several cities in the US, including Ithaca in upstate New York. Jacob Allen Roberts is head of a delegation from Ithaca currently visiting Sweden to see how they might implement their own system. He believes PRT could provide the kind of super convenient public transport to get Americans out of their cars.
The AAA just did a study that said on average the cost of owning an automobile is $8,000 to $10,000 per year, regardless of the model, regardless of the socioeconomic status of the owner. So I think if public transportation becomes a viable resource in America, which it used to be 100 years ago, I think more and more people will be happy to put their car in the garage or become part of car share for those times when they do want to take a drive in the countryside or need a van to go pick up hardware or something like that. There's a use for those types of services. But for the 90% of trips to just get to and from your basic everyday, routine, public transit works really, really well.
Sweden will announce which city will have the first podcar network in October 2010. Once things are up and running, PRT's supporters hope that it will demonstrate to the world that podcars are not only environmentally friendly, but also safe, convenient and affordable. If it can also demonstrate to potential investors that they can be profitable, then the system has almost unlimited possibilities.